Green Machine, how are you, my boy?
I'm very good, Dyl. Thank you very much for having me.
It's an honour to have you, and it's an honour. Thanks for bringing me to your house. Is this Green Room Studio?
It certainly is. We haven't got the sign going at the minute, but this is the studio where all the magic happens.
So this is your podcast. We're obviously at Giants HQ at the moment. It's an eerie feeling walking back in here.
So I was going to say, it's good to be back.
It's so good to be back, but it's almost like you have all these incredible memories, but you know, I was walking back and you guys were playing this game, and I was sort of sitting back, and it was a bit sad because I wanted to play that game.
You should have tagged in. We had some blokes who were
no one offered. I would have. Yeah. No, I would have, but no one said anything.
I think if you had to force your way in, because there were some guys who looked like they wanted the earth to swallow them up at a few points there. The moment got big on them. So if you could have found a way in there, I think.
I don't miss anything about football, like genuinely anything. Like I miss the locker room.
And Schwegs?
Not so much Schwegs. Not so much Schwegs at all. So just context there, 80 Schwegler, who is the property steward at the Giants. Him and I don't know if it's still spoken about here, but we used to have some real stouches.
I've certainly heard from the boys. There's some all-timers. It's very, very funny.
I don't know what they've said, but Schwags and I, our relationship's gotten better. Even
coming
today,
from a low base.
He was really happy to see me, and I was happy to see him. But there were some times there where we really didn't see eye to eye. And I'll tell you how it happened, and you can imagine this. But for context, like Schwags has been in footy his whole life. He was working at Essendon with Kevin Sheedy and James Hird and stuff. So I think really cool story actually. He started there. He was just a kid that used to come watch footy, and from reports, Kevin Sheedy grabbed him over the fence and said, "Mate, I'll give you a job."
Yeah, you want to go?
Then when Giants started, he came up here and became the property steward, and everyone would talk about him, and I had no idea what was going on. And long story short, I don't know if it's the same that happens now, but one day was my first week of being here, and Schwegs put the towels in your locker. Yeah. And there's these towel bins in the locker, right? At the end of the locker that don't get used. Yeah. But what happened was, because at the previous club I've been at, you'd use your towel, and the big thing was make sure you put your towel in the bin. Don't just leave it out. Yeah. So I kept putting my towel in the bin, and then I'd get back to my locker and my towel was at my locker. I was like, what the fuck? So I kept putting it in. Yeah. He came up to me and he goes, "You fucking silver spoon little fuck." He goes, "We don't fucking do that shit here." And I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? So since then, he just hated me because he thought that I was like silver. I was actually trying to help.
Yeah, you thought you were doing the right thing. The thing is as well, I will say, you've got to get him on side, because if you're offside with him, it can make life a whole lot more difficult. Like Jake Riccardi, my housemate, he kicks balls on the roof all the time, which is his other pet hate. Sometimes there was very recent, I think it was this pre-season, him and Schwegs are going back and forth. Ricky might accidentally kick one up there, and so Schwegs is living him off. And so the next time Ricky gets one, he's going for a snap. He says, "Go get this one, Schwegger," and launches it on the roof.
And he would not have taken that. No.
Schwegs and Ricky have some goes at each other.
It sounds like he's taken my punching bag position.
Steiny took that over for a little bit as well. Though.
It's not good because last story of Schwegs, because there's some trauma sort of coming out for me when I'm back here, but used to get to the stage of the year when he'd come around and do the boot orders, and at that stage there was ASICs, and he'd planned this strategically. He was very good at his gags, but they hurt me. And he'd go around the room and he'd go, "What do you want for next year, mate? You know, what do you want for after the bye?" And then he'd always get up to me and go, he goes, "Oh, you won't be here next year. Oh, good." And then just keep walking.
He certainly throws those out.
Fucking hell, mate. I can't even get a game. I don't need you.
Yeah, I don't need you heaping on too.
But I think they're important for footy clubs. It's very, very, very fun. Mate, how are you? Good start to the year.
No, it has been.
It's good turn anyway.
I was going to say we've been, I suppose, a little bit up and down. We had a good start, been down the last few, but it was nice to get a win on the weekend and steady the ship a little bit.
Oh, geez. I always feel like when you guys go to GMHBA, Cardinia Park, I really felt that one was coming. It's like two places I feel like the Giants travel really well to: Adelaide Oval, and GMHBA.
I couldn't agree more.
I'll always back the team in on those.
It's funny you say that, because that's a feeling we actually have as well. Yeah. When we go down there, we know it just suits us a fair bit. And one thing I'll also say about, I love Adelaide Oval. It's such a nice deck to play on. Oh my God. But yeah, I actually really agree. Every time we go there, I'm thinking, I feel like you want to feel that way everywhere you go, but those two places in particular, this is sort of some home away from home.
When you travel though, it's hard to feel it like in someone else's fortress. But yeah, it's just always that confidence. I don't know. There's pros and cons of having big fan bases, right? Because one, you don't ever want to rely on it, but two, you can sort of make it a kryptonite you can make it. Sorry, you can turn a positive into a negative. When you go.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I want to say turn it on them a bit. Like you take something out of keeping that crowd silent, and then also some of those big fan bases can turn on their own a little bit if you start really putting their team under the pump. So
well, even I was at the Essendon game a bit earlier in the year. Maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, a few weeks ago, and it can't help but notice, like, is there anything that you guys actually do or practice when you're playing at, like, a Marvel Stadium or an MCG and there is a home fan base? Like, did you ever have any sort of things you go to, like, thinking about if the crowd does get a bit involved in the game? Because it's hard as a spectator. I even think about the umpiring. I'm like, fuck, like, how do they not take it in?
Yeah.
Because there is a contrast in difference when Giants kick a goal versus a
100%. No, I think you do just have to, I suppose, take pride in keeping them quiet, and then when they do get fired up, you need to, I suppose, it's a little bit dependent, I guess, on maybe individual players and how you want to attack it, but I feel like you need to, again, sort of let that fire you up as well, because while they are cheering, I suppose, for the other team, if you use that as a bit of a, fire up, I want to shut them up sort of stuff, it can be beneficial in that way. But you're right, you can see the real appeal playing for a big team when the crowd's up and going and you're playing in front of big crowds each week, because it is nice. But I think we wear it as a bit of a badge of honour, trying to keep them quiet.
Oh, it's building, mate. Don't worry about that. Green Room podcast, as we're saying, on field things are returning really well. Yourself in playing some good footy, but the podcast, Green Room, yourself and Jacob Gaynor. If I would say, what in the podcasting world, you're sort of speaking to the man.
No, I am. Yeah, well, that's what I'm sort of. I'll kind of here almost with a notepad out trying to take some notes and sort of see how it goes.
Get it ready.
To be honest,
I've got some feedback. No, I think it's a great job, but I'd say, where would you, if you're comparing yourself and Jacob on season 1 of the Green Room to an AFL club at the moment, where you're at in terms of performance, spot on the ladder, potential of where that can go.
Yeah, I like that.
Where would you sort of put yourself, do you think, at the moment?
Oh no, it's a good one. We're definitely in the top 8. Like we're playing finals footy at the minute, I would have thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think we're going okay. We have our down weeks, but I think for the most part, I mean, the chemistry.
Sounds like you're Geelong, like going a bit better than you think you are, actually.
I don't know about that. Yeah. Maybe we'll say we're the bottom part. Maybe we're the Giants. Maybe we're sort of a bit, I think we leapt out of the blocks with some real.
Yeah.
We were feeling good about ourselves. Maybe there's been some slow weeks in between, but I think generally it's been a pretty positive start.
Yeah.
At least from most of the feedback.
I'd say maybe Gold Coast at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
so
a lot of talent, just needs some
ironing out.
Yeah,
okay. And what sort of areas do you reckon? Any specifics or just a general feel?
We'll take it off air because we could be here for a while. It's doing some great things. I'm actually really enjoying it, and I love, I love the show. I've got some more stuff on that later we'll chat about.
Yeah, okay.
I want to go back on set the scene because it's been a while since we've sort of toed and froed. And the last time that was around, would have been 2017, 2018, maybe 2016. I'm not sure.
It's around then, yeah.
Around then. And we obviously had some good times. We played together in the Giants NEFL.
Yep.
I want to get your recollections of those times. But for mine, and I say this like hand on heart, like the first time I remember playing with you, because back then, you remember, it's like you sort of get these blow-ins that just come. Like there could be these guys that are like 16, 17 years old, or there's these guys that get flown in from like some weird country town. It just happened that night, and it's very hard to know where everyone is.
Yeah, and it's also, I suppose, then hard to know as well who you're going to see. Like you might see a bloke for literally 1 week, then never see them again. Or you might get someone who plays sort of semi-regularly. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
So it's one of the most odd things ever, and I'm so shattered that NEFL is not longer a thing anymore because it was some of my funniest times ever playing football. Like I seriously fucking I look back now and go, what the fuck was actually happening? Like it was so weird. You'd play the same teams like every second week. Yeah, strange. Anyway, so I remember you were playing and you played some good games, and you started sort of playing regularly. And I went up to Adam Schneider one day. I was like, mate, I reckon we've got to lock this kid in. Like, I thought you genuinely were 25 years old and you were like a country kid from like somewhere that didn't really play. I'm like, mate, this bloke's got it. Like, I actually reckon it was like you had like a 28 game one day. I was like, I reckon we keep him in, mate. Like, why don't we get him more regularly? And Schneider goes, he's fucking 16 and he's playing in like the Allies at the moment. And I was like, what the fuck? Because you were like bigger than what you are now.
Yeah, well, I was probably heavier. Like I was just a bit
You were voluptuous.
I was just pretty simply, I was fatter. And so, I was carrying a bit extra. I've certainly sort of grown into my body, I like to think now, sort of leaned out a little bit. But yeah, I was a big, thick unit. But no, it was fun. And it's funny you say that as well, because you're right, it was really weird. And I suppose from your experience, it would be a very unique one, but I was like absolutely loving it. Again, as a 16, 17-year-old, I'm like, how good is this? I'm playing with AFL listed players. Like, these guys have played in massive games. They're, I'm playing with and against all these AFL. I mean, I remember playing one day on Michael Barlow when he was playing for Gold Coast, and he literally had 50.
Yeah.
So I was just like, what is going on here? But I absolutely loved it. As a young kid, playing against men, playing against AFL listed players, it's all I wanted to do. And so it was a great experience for me. I absolutely loved it.
It was so cool. And I as I said, like I remember those times, and since then it's been so good to see your transition and into the big stage. But we reflect on that game a fair bit, myself, Brett and Mick, when we do our Footy and Friends pod.
Yeah.
And that was a game.
Was Liz playing that game too?
Liz was playing too. Yeah. So he was playing with us. Like I was playing, Liz was playing, you were playing, and Mick Barlow was playing, and he had 50. Brett had like 35. I think you had like 40, and I think you did, and I had like 12. And it's just like, I was like, fuck, like if just hot is like in history, I wish I could go back and have had like 25 at least in that game.
Everyone's just started.
I was playing a role though. I was playing a role, which is more important.
One thing I've got to say, which I don't know if I've actually ever said to you, but the way that all the Giants boys, which I mean, I obviously do love the Giants. I love this club, but even for my first introductions into the NEFL stuff, yourself in particular was so welcoming. Like all those guys I played, even at the time, like Isaac Cumming, who's now a regular AFL player, but he was playing twos all the time. Flinney was playing twos all the time. Sprowley, Harry Perriman, like some of these guys who are now some of my best mates. The way that you guys are welcoming in, it made me really feel a part of it. So like I'll always be indebted to you guys about that as well.
Oh mate, it was some of the best times, and like it was genuinely just loved. And for me, it was at that time too where like I knew that things weren't but I was just trying to like be a positive person that would help other kids come through. Even though I thought you were 25, I was like, mate, this bloke's never going to make it. Let's just give him a good time. Send him back to his country house, and at least he can tell everyone that he played with Mick Barlow and Brett Delidia. But yeah, mate, you're a good person. I absolutely loved it. I did make up a few rumours though that I think when you got drafted,
they stuck. They actually hung around a bit.
You used to eat meat pies at half time. So I wouldn't put it past you.
I'm glad to now that like clarify, because I don't know if that's ever actually been clarified that wasn't made up rumour. I think people thought that was a real thing. And again, my physique at the time made it look like that was actually believable.
It was.
But yeah, no, it was very funny. And again, just that sort of stuff made it very... I remember actually, again, when I did get drafted and you interviewed and asked me about that. And so it did spread around a bit.
Good. Hey, speaking of when you did get picked up, and I think at that time too, it was really interesting because the Giants were stocked like with mids, and that was obviously like Hopper, Taranto, heaps. I can't even
at the time they
had
like Jackson Haitley as well was a high draft pick as an inside mid. Jock Caldwell as well, Aiden Bonner, like all these guys.
And then obviously the ones that are still in there, like Wardy, Toby,
Cogs.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sure,
incredible list. So some good players. Was there ever a time where? Because I know you're a businessman as well. You're not just a business, you are a business man.
Yeah.
Was there a time when you were thinking like, is this the right move for me to go into a team that has this many? Like, because you're obviously a part of the academy, which we'll chat about, and I'm a massive fan of in New South Wales, not just the Giants, but in Sydney too. Was there a time when you thought like, fuck, is it going to be the right move for me to come to the Giants because of that? Or was the tie's just too strong?
Yeah, well, I suppose with the academy, like, when I say I didn't really have a choice, like I knew they always wanted to take me, so it's just sort of
so you can't say no to that.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm to be honest, I actually don't know because no one really does. So maybe you can, and maybe that was something I should have considered. But I don't even know if you can. So I knew I was going to the Giants, and I suppose I just, again, the way that I see that sort of stuff, I saw it as a real challenge. Like I know these guys are good, but I feel like I can be as good or better. So I'm just gonna knuckle down and work hard and see where I can get to. But you're right. There was a thing where I was like, how are we gonna work this out? But I suppose I'm also, the way I did approach it was like, well, maybe they're going to have to be the ones who, figure it out because I want to be the one. I want to, make the team sort of thing.
That gets me up and going. That's what I'm talking about. That is any kid that's coming through right now. This is a really important discussion to listen to really important conversation to listen to because that is an incredible mindset to have. Did you always think like that? Like, where do you think that sort of inspiration came from in terms of rocking up going, nah, this is my team. Like, I want to be the guy, because that's not normal. I think the other only person that I've really seen come into a team like that is Sam Taylor. When I was here, I was like, this bloke's fucking off his head. Then I realised, no, he's just he just knows what he's doing and he knows where he's going.
Yeah, I think I sort of, I suppose, developed it when you're going through stuff growing up and sort of coming up, obviously playing for like the ACT or whatever and the Allies and the Rams. You're playing against Victoria and, these teams that we're not necessarily going to beat. But when I'm going up against these people who I know are sort of highly touted or have got a bit more exposure than myself, and then I go out there and I suppose perform well against them, I go, well, I feel like I'm good enough. I know I can do this. And I also think that, the way that mum and dad, probably credit to them, the way that sort of the self-belief they instilled in me, and I suppose also an understanding of how important hard work is and that you can achieve anything with hard work, which I do actually wholeheartedly believe. And then I suppose, again, as I said, that bears fruit where you get picked for teams, you then go in those teams, you play well against these people, and you, I suppose, develop self-belief that way. So it sort of comes out of a little bit of nurture from mum and dad and I suppose the values and beliefs and self-esteem they instilled in myself, but then from hard work and also results, going out performing, understanding, no, I'm good enough, and we'll see where it goes from there. And I understand that is then there's a big leap between that and junior footy and then an AFL club, but I suppose maybe I was delusional, but the way that I saw it was I was going to be able to come in and hopefully play early, and I know my best is good enough, so I'll go and put that on display and see where we get to.
It's a great answer. The chicken or the egg, of that too is like, what comes first, the hard work the hard work, the belief, and then the action. It's like, it's a combination of all three of them.
Yeah,
like you can work really hard, but if you don't have belief, it doesn't work. You can believe in yourself, but if you're not working hard, you're not going to put into action.
Yeah.
So there's like this weird combination of all three of those things that you have to be doing. I don't know which one's more important. It's like they're all equally as important as each other.
I know exactly what you mean, yeah. It is a tough one because I suppose in some respect you probably have to take some self-belief out of the hard work you're doing to then go out and perform it, and then you just back yourself to perform. When you do perform, you get self-belief out of, I suppose, the result you see there. And then, as you're right, those sort of three things you keep
rotating through.
Yeah, you keep pouring into those buckets and then hopefully getting something out of it. So I know it's a formula that I think has served me reasonably well so far, and hopefully I keep tipping into those buckets in the future, and we'll wait and see.
I know that it was a joke, but the delusion comment is seriously something that I think is delusion's the wrong word. It's almost like this pig-headedness of just not worrying about what's around you as well when you're an athlete, or when you're an athlete's anyone who wants to go well in life, not just in footy but in business, sport, whatever it is. And I think sometimes when you're too self-aware and you think about all these things, you just have to be so naive sometimes.
Yeah.
Just knowing it's going to work, and then it does.
It's very funny. There is definitely an element of that, and I have these discussions actually with one of my best mates, Billy Clark, who actually played some, Bill, I think, as well.
Mate, one of the best halfbacks in the NEFL's ever seen.
Exactly. He'll be pretty stoked to get to shout out here as well. But
he's a good player.
Yeah,
he's just one of those guys you knew he was going to rock up and do his job.
Exactly. But we have these discussions because we're sort of talking about how I face it. But as you just said there, that I suppose when you're too self-aware, he is very much in that. Like, he would go to things and be like, not I'm the worst player here, but oh my God, everyone here is so good, or I'm really worried about this sort of stuff. And we had those discussions about the differences in our mindset, and I think I don't know, he would have to tell you more than I would whether it served him better, I think. But I think he started to see how, you can believe in yourself a bit more and where that can get you. But it's very funny you say that because it's very true. People, maybe it is a little bit of naivety on my behalf or whatever it is, but it's funny.
Yeah, it is. Look, I could talk about this stuff all day, and often after a few beers, this is what I do talk about a lot. But I think I've been on two parts of that. One where I second guessed everything I did, and then the other part where I was just like, get the fuck over it and do what you want to do. And after you do that, I genuinely feel like the world gets out of your way.
100%.
It's just like, it is easier. It's harder than it sounds, but there is a pivotal point where it just goes like, fuck this, and you start making your mind up. For me, that didn't, all those lessons in footy I fucked up, but after that, I was like, no, I'm doing it this way now.
Which is a great way to be. Because
it's interesting.
Yeah, I think exactly as you just said, it's in some element was like, I don't want to die wondering. football is my dream. It is what I want to do. I'm very grateful that I get to do every single day. And I'm a bit of that mindset of I don't want to, end my career. I didn't want to, be a kid from Canberra who was maybe good enough but didn't make it because I didn't believe in myself, or I didn't work hard enough, or I didn't, I didn't throw myself into it, for 100%. So, yeah, you're 100% right.
Hard to break it down, but what do you think makes you the player you are?
I suppose a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, I think the self-belief and the hard work is really important. I think you can't underestimate those two things. I think sort of on the field, the stuff that serves me pretty well, because I'm not, sort of talked about, I've become a better athlete, but I'm not the most physically gifted athlete out there. I'm reasonably strong and that sort of stuff, but I'm not super quick, not naturally a good runner. I think my decision-making helps. I think my fundamentals too, generally. I don't fumble. I'm pretty clean. I execute my skills generally pretty well. And I think those are still – that's when kids ask me, I suppose, tips for the game, I still always bang on about that. I think sometimes we can get sucked into how much can you bench and how quick's your 2K, not, how good of a mark are you? Are you clean? Can you hit your handballs and your kicks? Which I still think the fundamentals are the most important part of the game. And you would see people sometimes don't make it because you generally don't make it because your skills or your decision-making, whatever, isn't up to it, not because your 2K is not good enough, because we can work on that. We get, 18-year-olds in and they shape your body. And so I think the fundamentals of the game are the key one. But I think, generally I execute my fundamentals well, and I think my decision-making is generally pretty good. Not always, but generally.
Oh, you just fucked up what I was about to say, because two parts to that is one around, okay, so the one thing that I picked up that you said, you said, I don't fumble. And it was like, I saw in your face, and I'm just wondering here, I might be thinking in this too much, but language is so important to me. And I think when you say I don't fumble, sometimes I fumble, sometimes I don't. It's like, well, then you will fumble sometimes. Yeah. And it's like you almost, if you say I don't fumble, you won't. Do you ever think about this?
A little bit, but there's also you're right. The language, self-talk, and it
comes back to you.
100% it does.
Like if I say I'm okay at podcasting, I'll be okay.
You will just be okay.
But mentally, I will say to myself, not on a daily basis, but I'll just be like, mate, you're the best. Yeah. Even if I don't necessarily believe it, it actually just tricks my mind into thinking I am.
No, it does, 100%. So, I do it sometimes when I say to sound more humble or to...
Of course, I know. Yeah.
But the fumbling stuff, I don't. That's also though. There's also, I think, proof in the pudding.
Yeah,
now,
of course.
Someone might go and find one time I did, and clip it up. But
there's a few bad podcasts out there. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. But the proof is also in the pudding in terms of I work really hard on it, and then when I go out next, I execute and I don't fumble. And also, as I said, I'm too slow to fumble, so you can't do that.
Well, this was the other point that I think as well is for ages we've looked at. And I've obviously thought a lot about this. It's kept me up at night. You can imagine. But when some players, both male and female, are blessed with things like a great 2K or a great turn of speed, I feel like sometimes they rely on that too much. Whereas when you look at players, like yourself that you just admit, then the athleticism is obviously you're an athlete, but in terms of elite speed or I don't know how you go into 2K, but you look at someone as well like Scott Pendlebury, Tom Mitchell, Lachie Neale. These guys, because they don't have those elite speed and endurance qualities, now I'm sure they're very good at those things, that's when the best decision makers come. Yeah. Because you can't rely on speed to get out of something. Yeah. If you think about it, the best decision makers aren't quick. Nah, not because they have to think on their feet. They're thinking about it more. Whereas I was that idiot who was like, I'll just fucking sprint 20 meters, then work it out. It's like we end up fucking it up. You know what I mean? Versus if you don't have it, you've actually got to think on your feet and make it work.
You don't have time because, as you said, if you've got the turn of speed, you can run for a bit and figure it out and take in. Whereas you need to understand, I'm going to pick this up and give it here or that sort of stuff. And as soon as I get it, I know there's someone there. I've got to give it straight away because you don't have time to make it up. So there is a little bit of a correlation there, no doubt.
You didn't like that, or
What's that?
You didn't like me saying you're not quick?
No, I'm not quick. I'm not, the endurance stuff I've actually gotten far better at. I used to be not that good. Now I can run a 6:26 is my best, I think. So
jeez, that's very
it's good enough. It's as well to play AFL mid, it needs to be around that mark. So
that's on grass too?
Yeah, on grass.
Yes, that's pretty good.
I was going to say, I see some clubs run them on tracks. I'd like to get on a track and hum around in those.
It's at least, I'm telling you now, it's at least 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's something massive. But the speed's not there. I'm not going to fool anyone with that one.
Oh, the speed of the mind is there, that's for sure. Leadership, youngest leader at the club.
Yep.
Youngest leader in the leadership group at the club.
Yep.
Yeah. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's nice. It's very nice. It was nice to be part of it last year, and I think the important part for me is that it is peer voted. So I suppose I really appreciate and am humbled by my teammates looking at me in that way, and it's something that I don't take lightly. And I've also been unapologetic about having aspirations to captain the club one day. That's something that I would really want to do. But again, that's only if your teammates want you to. It's not something that I can say I want to be the captain of the club, but if my teammates don't want me to, then it's not something you want to do. But who knows where that goes. But yeah, I really enjoy being a leader. I'm really humbled that my teammates see me that way, and I try my best to lead by example and lead the best way I can, which I think is only being 23 and being as a part of the leadership group last year as well as a 22-year-old is constantly developing. I understand there's so many different layers and depths to leadership, and I think the older I get, the more that'll probably change and the more I will open my eyes to that. I can say that I don't know much, and hopefully I'll learn a fair bit along the way, but I've got good mentors around me. Again, my family and Phil Davis and Wardy and Tubbs, these guys are really good leaders as well, Cogs as well, Josh Kelly. They've all been fantastic helping me to constantly develop my leadership. So, it's something I really enjoy doing, and I'm really grateful that I get to.
This could be such a question that is just very transactional in the sense of like it can mean nothing, but genuinely at the moment, like leadership is something I'm thinking about a lot, like even just in terms of business and life. And I think it's one of those things, like the better you get at it, the more you think you're even shit, because you realise all the other things you can be doing better. I don't know if you relate to that at all, but definitely for me, I'm like, if I think I'm getting better, then I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually so bad at this, because you realise all the other aspects there actually are to like getting better.
It is like I feel like there's a lot of things of life in that they talk about, like even space or whatever. The more you learn about it, the more you realise we have no idea.
Yeah,
or like physics, the more you
on.
realise. The more you think you learn, the more you're like, oh my God, what do we actually know?
Yeah, exactly.
No, there's
exactly
definitely
that. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Where do you feel for you are important? What's like really important to you as a leader, like with teammates or like just being, family, coaching, like relationships, whatever they are? And where do you think that is like an improvement area that you're looking at getting better?
I think I think my biggest sort of room for growth on leadership would probably be just constantly setting, when I say the best example of, because I think the most important thing about being a good leader as well is you want to be a good teammate. And more so, you don't have to be a leader to want to be a good teammate. Everyone should want to be a good teammate, but more than anybody else, the leaders have to be good teammates, because you can't be led by people you don't want to play with or play for, I suppose, in that way.
Yep.
And so that, I think, particularly being a bit of a ball hunter, you would have seen constantly, I'm sure through your footy thing as well, there's times where mids in particular defensively aren't great because they're thinking about, they're ball watching a bit or they're hunting the ball. And so I need to make sure that I'm really sharp on those moments. Not that I'm, the absolute worst at it, and I've certainly gotten a whole lot better. But there's still just those times where I go, I need to make sure that I'm, not just daydreaming or not just ball watching. I'm taking someone out here and being just generally a person that my teammates want to play with, because I think that's the most important part of being a leader. And you need to also make sure that your backyard is constantly clean, because it's hard to pull people up or uphold standards of the football club if you're not living out those values yourself.
Yeah. Positives, or what do you think?
I think generally, my standards generally are pretty good. I feel like I play the game in the right way in terms of I feel like I'm a selfless player, and I'm always trying to win and trying to do the best thing by the team. And so in that way, I suppose leading by example. I feel like I've got good relationships with everyone at the club as well. I feel like any player would be able to come and talk to me. I would hope they would anyway, but I feel like I make an effort to make sure that every player can come and speak to me about anything. And if they want advice, they just want someone to talk to, anything like that, I feel like I'm definitely there for them, and I have great relationships, which again I think is another really important part of being a leader.
Yeah, very important. It's funny, before you're saying about like the defensive side of the game and stuff, and I was just sort of thinking in my head, and back to that point about space, like you learn a little bit about it and then you're like, fuck, I actually know nothing about it. And I actually feel like that with football. Yeah. Like the more you think about what successful is and what a good team is, then you hear a contradicting thing that have gone really well for another team, then you're like, what the fuck? Does anyone actually know what's going on, or is it just timing, like
There's definitely an element of that.
I think we think that there's a recipe. There actually isn't.
Yeah, no. Well, there's definitely like you can win premierships different ways, no doubt. I think you look at teams win it in a contrasting style. So like, we're obviously, it's no real secret. Kingers comes from Richmond, and so we play a similar-ish way to how they won their premierships. But Melbourne won a premiership in 2021, playing a completely different way. West Coast in 2018 won a premiership in a completely different way. Like, there's just different ways to be successful. And as you said, there's timing, there's momentum, there's injuries, there's all this sort of stuff that
plays factor.
Exactly.
Well, the reason I say that though is like with the defensive thing. I just remember having this chat with Kane Lambert once, who incredible person, great teammate, just one of those guys you'd just love. And he's saying the fact of like with defensive, and I'm not saying this is you, and just in general in footy, it's worth just having the discussion. Like you got players that like yourself and like Toby and so many of the Giants that can win a game. There's a part of playing the team, but then there's a part of like doing your thing. And, there was this really cool story about Dustin Martin when he was at his peak. And I don't think he was doing too much defensive patterns. And like,
I think it wasn't Kane Lambert doing them for him.
Kane Lambert was doing them for him. So it was almost like his role was to just do like, pick up Dusty's man on defense, which is just like the craziest thing ever, isn't it?
It's hilarious.
Like, can you imagine that?
I wouldn't mind having someone do that for me, but I'm also not Dustin Martin.
Who would do that? If you could pick someone to do that for you?
Well, Bingo would say, Brent Daniels would tell you he does it anyway. He does it anyway for most of the mids. So, there's definitely an element of that, but I think that, as you said, there is definitely a balance between, and you've got to do the defensive stuff, but there's also, which I think Kingers understands as well, I suppose my ball winning ability is not something that I want to lose.
No.
So, there is a bit of a give and take. I'm going to sometimes get that decision wrong trying to go and win the ball, but there's also going to be times where I'm going to make that decision and something good's going to happen and it's going to be beneficial. So it is finding a balance, there's no doubt. And you never want to, take away from your strengths.
Yeah, and that's what I do love about the Giants. You can see is, I did this level 2 coaching course years ago. I don't think I finished it. And one of the questions was, if you're a coach, do you treat everyone the same or everyone differently? And straight away when you read that, you go, mate, you treat everyone the same. Like you've got to. Everyone gets the same. And as the course goes, it's like a Mr. Miyagi sort of like trick question. It's like, no, you treat everyone differently because everyone's different. Like some guys, you got to give them the license to just do their thing. And then others, they like it a bit more like this and a bit more strict, a bit more there. So I think that the Giants, I don't know this from inside the four walls, but I feel like there's certain players that you have to just let them do their thing, and other ones do certain other things. Like does that make sense? Yeah,
no, it does. It does. And I couldn't agree more. You just need to tread a fine line because you don't want to, I suppose, be giving licenses out left and right, and all of a sudden everyone's doing their own
like
thing.
2 or 3 licenses, I think.
But there's definitely an element of that. And like you said, there's still just, you can be, I suppose when I say a star within your role, whatever that is, people's roles are different. And so it's just about understanding, what that, I suppose, entails in your role, what you've got to do, and then making sure, again, you're covering back and making sure Bing is not chasing your man all day.
No, he's a good man, Trent. Relationships with some of the higher, leadership group coaches as well. Like, what's it like playing with Toby and his evolution over the past sort of 3 or 4 years since becoming captain, and then King is coming into that role? Because I think when maybe the club isn't in the spotlight all the time, you forget, like when Leon left, Kingers came in, Toby appointed captain. It was a pretty weird sort of time. Like I don't think anyone was really thinking the Giants would bounce back to where they are.
No, definitely not. No, there was a lot of stuff sort of going into last year. People certainly wouldn't have thought we would have made a prelim. It was a bit of a weird time, but no, Toby's been really good. I think everyone you would ask would say the same thing. I mean, and Toby as well. I think his real strength in his leadership is that he leads by example, and you want to play for him because the way that he plays the game is really inspiring, and he goes about it the right way, and he's completely honest and transparent about pretty much everything in his life, and so he's really inspiring to play with, and you just want to get behind him and perform well for him. I think a lot of stuff was made, I suppose, about him in his early career about not being a leader, but even when I was here and he wasn't captain, he was still a leader again in his action and that sort of stuff. So, I think sometimes we have obviously seen as well that because they can step over the line in his own way, but I think that's also part of the reason you love playing with him is because you know that he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Absolutely anything that it takes.
There would not be one captain of another team that wouldn't take him in a heartbeat.
No,
to their,
no way.
Not one club supporter base that wouldn't. Like what he did, the different types of leadership. What he did against Geelong when he kicked that goal. There was no right for him to sort of kick that goal in the last quarter. It was just pure like, get the fuck off me. Like I'm going to just kick a goal here.
He just he just wills the ball in. Like he's just like, he just sort of kicks it and it goes in because he's just like, you fucking
like,
get it.
If you don't get it, I'm going to literally
like he's just, he just wills it in. So he's, like I said, super inspiring to play with, and he has those moments all the time. And Kings are the same. King is a fantastic leader because he's got a really good balance of lighthearted and serious, and he's, super, super knowledgeable. And he's also the other thing that he's really hardworking. We see how hard he works in his role and how he does absolutely everything to put us in the best position to win. So he's really easy to play for because, again, you want to play for him, and you know that he's not asking anything of you that he wouldn't do himself. So
something about a fit coach.
Yeah, no, there is a bit.
I seriously.
When he's out doing crossies with us in pre-season, like it helps.
But it's almost like when you see someone that's fit, you go, they're looking after himself. Like, and if you can look after yourself, you can actually help everyone else.
Yeah.
I think people look at me and go, "How are you?
You're not in bad shape. What do you mean?"
It's the skinny fat, so it's not. It's not good under here.
You've got every right to enjoy though.
Not at the moment. We need. I'm working on it. It was really sad out here as well because I used to have the record for power to weight.
Yeah, you did too. Yeah,
Darcy
Jones.
Yeah, he took that over recently, which it hurt a bit.
Hurts.
Hey, hot topics that I'd love to get your opinion on. These are things that are sort of picked up.
Happy to give a controversial opinion.
I love your opinions. Yeah. Well, I might need you to even just give me some. But when I say these things, what do you think?
Yeah.
Paul Roos.
You want me to say Boomer again? Is that what you want to say?
I liked that.
No, the thing is, and to be honest,
context. Give us context.
Yeah. So he had a go at Jacob for our social media stuff, and Jacob wasn't too happy, and so Jacob was pretty diplomatic, and I thought that I wouldn't be, and I'd just go out and say a few outrageous things. But again, one thing that when Jacob clipped it all up, he didn't manage to put in the part where I said how he's an unbelievable coach, he had an unbelievable playing career, and he's a great of the game. Jacob didn't include that; he included me saying, "Okay, Boomer." But yeah, I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I think, the AFL landscape, particularly social media, is very different to when Paul was involved in the game, and he's entitled to his opinion. And as I said, he's just as right as I am, because who says I know any better than he does? But that was very funny from Jacob.
Does anything else, I'm sure there is a lot. Does anything else annoy you that happens in maybe a Victorian dominated state that it gets said that you don't agree with at the moment? Is anything else sort of
the stuff about the travel that I saw recently with the West Coast, and saying that because they get 12 business seats, or Freo, because they get 12 business seats on their flights, there's no travel disadvantage. I thought was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard.
So, and what was said? Sorry,
I think
so. West Coast and Fremantle to get business class seats.
I think some presidents of Victorian clubs were saying because West Coast and Fremantle get 12 business class seats on their flights to and from Victoria, there's no travel disadvantage.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's still a disadvantage for sure.
Yeah, well, they're
business class is nice.
Yeah, they're also on a flight for 4 hours.
Yeah,
to and from. I thought was really naive. And one thing I think I would love, it will never be able to happen. I understand that this is not a realistic thing, but if there was some way that you could get one of these presidents or these decision makers from either the AFL or clubs even to do, for instance, a year with the Giants, like travel around with us for a year, or travel around with West Coast for a year. And you tell me that it isn't taxing on the playing group, or it's not taxing flying in and out of home every second week. And again, it's different for the WA guys. It's even worse because they're flying 4 hours across the country.
A long way.
It's ridiculous. To tell me that there's no disadvantage for those groups, I think you change pretty quickly when, again, some of the big Victorian teams, and I understand, again, there's a rating and there's money to make in terms of playing big teams in big venues in Victoria week after week. But if you play 18 games in Melbourne and you're a Melbourne club, and we play 3 of our home games in Canberra, which again, I absolutely love going home to Canberra, but that's not a home game. We're still travelling there.
Yep.
It's definitely a disadvantage.
Well, 2 parts to this. I think it's really interesting now that like Damien Hardwick's at Gold Coast, and you can hear his sort of thoughts.
The complete backflip, or not the backflip.
Well, he has done a bit of a back, but that's fine. Like, it's good. I love the way he leads and coaches, because he's just like, you could literally murder someone if you played on that team, and he would be like, "Nah, mate, he's a good bloke." But that's just who he is. He's so murdering's probably not appropriate.
Not endorsing.
Not endorsing that at all. But you get the point.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I will challenge you on the fact that I think there are some extreme positives of travelling together. I don't know Perth and West Coast. Like, I've never done the full. Yeah. That's fucked. I don't know how you would do it. That's a long time. It's a long time on a plane. But you look at like West Coast in, for over 06, 07 and what they were able to do that period, it seemed to have, they still won a flag. I think it was 07 or 06, whatever it was with the
06, West
06, 07, whatever it was. But I also think from my time here, one of the coolest things, I know it's busy and I know it's hard, but like getting on the plane with the guys going away for a night, like that was just the amount of sort of relationships you build and time spent together and stuff. Like, I think there's something there that other clubs don't get. Now, I'm saying it definitely errs on the disadvantage, but I think there is something there that you're a lot closer together because you're traveling together a lot more. Yeah,
I agree with that. That is a good point. That is definitely a good point. And I think most people who have been at two clubs as you have and other guys would probably say a similar thing, that the amount of time we spend together certainly helps build relationships, and you have some, I suppose, your best times traveling together and whatever. I think that's also that you sort of have to frame it that way because we're not given a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You're right. There's two sides to it. I think there's maybe a middle ground in between the two.
There's a middle ground. Yeah. But it is interesting. It's a good point. And for me, like, even from that point of being up here, not that there was some things talking about like the COLA and stuff like that. I don't know what the go is with the payments and stuff now, but I genuinely do still believe like the cost of living in New South Wales and the east coast of Australia, like there should be definitely some payments made for other players. And I think for me, maybe you don't want to hear this, it's more for the players maybe under sort of 300 grand.
No, 100%.
Yeah, like it's those guys, like it's and even to the AFLW, like the girls that are coming up here for the Swans and the Giants, like it's just crazy, mate, how expensive it is. Like from all reports, I was chatting to a couple of the girls recently, like they're living together in share houses because it's just too expensive.
No, it is. So you're right, 100%. It's not necessarily, I know, it's been used for different purposes in the past, but it's not for top end earners. It's for the guys who we're trying to, keep that are really important for the club and for our team, but aren't on as much.
Yeah.
But the cost of living is the same for them as anyone. Like, it's ridiculous.
And I know people get upset with this, but I just want to spell that out why it's so important, right? Like, if someone's earning 200 grand up here or 100 grand up here, because of how fucking expensive it is, that's probably X dollars. Whereas if you were earning the same money but in Melbourne, you're making probably 20% more because of like how, like
100%. Look at, just even compare rental prices. I know rental prices now in Melbourne are
quite high. Yeah,
they are. But if you look at, I suppose, prime real estate, you want to look at in Melbourne, and then look at prime real estate here and the rental pricing difference, or even if you want to go a step further than trying to buy something, it's completely different. Like,
and also I want to cover all bases here because I know there's people out there that are doing it tough, but we're talking about the biggest game in Australia right now.
Yeah.
This is obviously there's a lot of people that are struggling with financials, but I'm talking about athletes and finances and that. It shouldn't be happening.
No, I agree. And the thing about when I say this is, you're 100% right. I don't want to sound ungrateful because it's not that we're being ungrateful here, but it's just when you then compare it to
it's reality of the game,
but also the competition that we're then in. When I say, like, it sounds a bit, but we're not. I'm not comparing because I don't think it's fair to compare us to people who are doing it tough. I'm comparing us or the Giants to Richmond, or
yes.
That's the only comparison that we're trying to make.
We love everyone here.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Yeah. Canberra 20th team in the AFL. Would it work? You could go to the Parliament House before the game, get a coffee with Albanese.
Yeah.
You could go to the War Memorial. You could go to the...
You can go to Hopscotch after the game.
After the game.
Just a nightclub, which should feel free to sponsor me. Yeah.
It's a happening place. Like the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders have gone well. They go well. The Brumbies, that's a little bit different just because rugby in Australia is...
It's not going well.
It's not going well, which we don't need to delve into. But I think it would work well. I'm the biggest Canberra advocate there is. Someone has to be. And I absolutely love going home to Canberra so much that once this podcast is done, I'm actually driving home for a few days. So
it can be.
Yeah, just to see mum and my brothers and my mates. So for a couple of days, then I'm coming back.
Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
Say, for example, the next team, the 19th team, was actually Canberra, not Tassie, and they had one player to pick. and it was you,
would I go?
would you go?
Oh,
That's what I do here, man.
I know. You said there were no hard-hitting questions either.
It normally isn't. That was just...
Oh, I'd be so tempted. I really would, but I don't know, because what if they do get a license in the future? Then I've just said I can't go.
It's hard to say.
I do love Sydney. I absolutely love, and where I live, very fortunately in Tamarama, is beautiful.
Oh,
it is
it's
absolutely amazing being that close to the beach.
Hey, bad rips there, man.
Yeah, there are.
Don't swim
you
there.
You need to be careful. I'm actually not too bad of a swimmer. I don't want to jinx that and now get caught in one, but yeah, touch wood.
That's a really, really rippy beach.
Yeah, it is. It can be very, very dangerous, but I absolutely love it. And just being close to Bondi, like it's just an unbelievable spot. But it'd be tough to say no. Like, I miss my mates a lot, so having them around, having mum and dad and my brothers around, I'd be close. It'd be close.
By the time if it ever happened,
I'll cross this bridge when we get to it.
By the time if it ever did happen, by the time it did, you might just go as a coach or something.
Yeah, maybe it'll be time.
See what happens.
Wait and see. Yeah, we'll let them get that license, and then I'll start thinking about it.
Exactly. Hardest opponents.
Patrick,
who do you admire?
So my favourite players growing up were Patrick Cripps, Josh Kennedy from the Swans.
Off topic, did I ever get Cripper to send you a message or something? Or was I thinking about doing that?
Don't know. Maybe you like he's. I will say as well, he's been very kind to me in terms of like I've spoken to him post games and stuff like that. Like I've never spoken to him heaps, but I bumped into him with a few other boys. We were in Austin a couple of years ago. In America, and I saw him there as well, and he was a really nice guy. He's been really good to me. The times that I've met him, again, they've only been brief and nothing ever serious. So maybe you were just thinking about that.
Maybe I was thinking, maybe when I realised you weren't 25 and you were sitting there, I was like, Cripper, you should probably speak to this guy. Like, there's a lot of similarities.
So I really admire him.
Yeah.
Particularly the leader that he's become and is for Carlton.
Yep.
But just obviously being a big inside mid, I really admire that. Josh Kennedy for the Swans, I admired a lot growing up as well. I love Marcus Bontempelli as well. I think it's hard not to. Again, just the way that he impacts games as a big inside mid is amazing. I also really like
anyone not 190 centimeters. Do you like any small people?
The next one I was gonna say was actually Charlie Curnow, because my favourite players to watch and Aaron Norton are key forwards. Key forwards when they're up and about, I think it's the hardest position on the ground to play, but I also think it's the most important. And so when they're up and flying, they are unbelievable to watch. Yeah. They're amazing. I used to love. In fact, actually, this is a funny story. Yeah. When Buddy kicked his 1,000th, I was at that game as a spectator and ran on.
The Hawks Carlton one?
No,
the Sydney one.
Yeah, up here in Sydney. So we played. This is a few years ago. We played him round 1, and he didn't kick his 1,000th, but he was maybe in line for it. But he didn't. But the next week they played Geelong at the SCG, and I went hoping that he'd kick it, and he did. So in the third or last quarter when he was going to kick it, I went around to that end that they were kicking to, and he just so happened that pocket that he kicked it from was where we were too. We were ready to go, and there's vision on Fox Sports or Chaos, and even back in the day, I got literally this far away from him, and then I realised I'm like, there might be cameras here. I don't actually know if I'm allowed to be here, and like I'm seeing sort of Nick Blakey's rolling in there and Ollie Florent, they're just trying to cover him, and I'm like, I played against these guys last week. I should probably be backing up here. And then so I start trying to push against the crowd and finally work my way out.
That is
and
so
then
good.
Jason McCartney sends me a text because I'm like waiting in the middle with Bill, in the middle of the SCG, and he sent me a text because I think he's from a box and he's seen us down there, and he loved it. He thought it was hilarious. And I really think that was a moment where I just went, this is bigger than, the fact that we're playing in 2 days. Like, who knows when the next person is going to be to kick their 1,000th? And if I've got an opportunity to be there and run on the field, I'm going to do it. And so I did, and I absolutely loved it. It was amazing.
So good. Can you imagine if you just dabbed it up with him?
Imagine if
Bud,
you well done.
He actually saw him. What the fuck?
What are you doing out here? To be fair, though, I don't think Buddy would even know who I am. So.
No, I'm sure he would. It's funny, like one of my biggest regrets is when he kicked the 100 at Hawthorn and Hawthorn versus Carlton, and I was at that game when Fev kicked like 8 and he only kicked 99.
Yeah, because Clarko parked the bus there.
Yeah, parked the bus, and I remember being at that game and I was with, at the time, Shane Rogers, who was like the recruiter at Carlton, and it was sort of like a game to just like go with him and watch.
Yeah, okay.
And it was like not appropriate for me to like leave and then run on the field, but I remember going, fuck, man, I've just missed out on that. But if Fev gets on, like, I'm going next time. Like, I can't not go.
Yeah.
And then he didn't do it. And to this day, I'm like, fuck, I wish I did that.
Yeah. which is a shame. But that was sort of the reasoning. I was just like, it was a real sort of last minute thing. Is I was like, why aren't we going? Like, we're not doing anything. We're sort of playing in 2 days, and like, it's just be something that who knows when the next person to kick their 1,000th is ever going to be. It's not something I want to miss.
We do this segment on Footy and Friends, and I was thinking about it now while we should do it, is around the greatest of all time player from 2000 to 2030 from every club.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a 6-year projection period.
Yeah, there is.
Which that's the spanner.
Yeah.
That's where it comes in.
Yeah.
So off the dome,
yeah,
I want to workshop the Giants top 3.
Well, I think what Jez Cameron's already done in terms of like, he won the goal kicking every year he was here. He won a Coleman, he won a BNF. Mm-hmm. He made maybe 1 or 2 All Australians. Mm-hmm. He like just his resume wise, and the like sort of certainly stacks up.
Yep.
Toby, I think, is also going to be in and around. I don't know if he'll get through to 2030. Hopefully he does, but he's also what he's done.
Well, you got to hold on, right?
And he's done all Australian captain. All Australian captain. I think he's a 2 or 3 time All Australian now as well. He's won 2 best and fairest, I think.
Yep, I'm just writing this down. So Toby Green, I've got Toby Green, Jeremy Cameron.
Yeah,
Wardy's one.
Yeah,
and the other one is yourself.
Yeah, maybe.
Can we project?
Yeah, well, there's going to have to be some. I'm going to have to do some making up in these next 6 or 7 years.
The one thing that trumps a lot of this is a flag.
Yeah.
So just in context, like we've got Collingwood was one, for example, we're working through the other day, and you're like, there's 3 or 4 real standouts there. You've got Pendlebury, Nathan Buckley, and Nick Dacos.
Yeah. Yeah,
and we went Pendlebury.
Yeah, I think it is Pendlebury.
Flags as well.
Yeah.
But 6 years is a long time, and what Nick Dacos is doing, who knows?
Yeah. No, I agree. He's certainly got. There's enough time in there for him to put some things together that would make it a reasonable argument. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to be able to throw myself in there, but I literally have 0 on the board currently.
Well, everyone does here.
Yeah. Oh, in terms of premierships, I just even mean the other stuff though. I've got 0 of that as well. So, I mean, I'm not sure what came 3rd or 2nd, finishes in BNF. So,
well, let's put at the moment then, a top 2 is Jezza and Toby.
Yeah.
I think for that 3rd position, I'd have to say yourself if you project over the next 6.
I'd like to think so.
I'd like to think Callum Ward, just of his all-round.
Well, what he's done as well, and which I suppose Phil deserves some recognition in the way of young guys who came to a start-up club, and I think the way that they led the club from day one has been unbelievable. The way that they've sort of set this club up, even culture-wise, I think is amazing. So they probably can't be spoken of highly enough either.
No, for sure. I'm trying to think of anyone else.
Yeah.
It's obviously like...
Well, the other one, I suppose, is 6 years, Sam Taylor. Sam Taylor's already been an All-Australian.
Sam Taylor, Josh Kelly, Stephen Canelio.
Lockie Whitfield's already won 2
He's
best
a pretty
and
good player.
fairest.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
There's a lot to choose from. I just think as well with the projection piece, Sam Taylor as well, you give him 6 years.
I really like the projection piece. Can we just identify as a podcaster now, that's a really good bit of content?
Yeah, it is. That's an unbelievable bit of content.
Like it just gets them guessing.
Gets people thinking.
Yeah.
Because then it brings in opinions. It creates discussion. I like it a lot.
Thanks, man. What's on outside of footy? What are you sort of focusing on at the moment? Did you just do a law degree, or you're doing a law degree?
Yeah, I certainly haven't finished one. I've started it.
That's very impressive, man.
I started off before I got drafted politics and international relations at UC, which I like. In all honesty, I don't want to be a politician. I like history and I like other cultures. So,
what do you learn in that sort of degree?
International relations.
Studying, international. What is that like? Is that like how we're friends with other countries?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I only did a year of it part time before I then got picked up, and then COVID happened, so I didn't actually learn heaps in it.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, in the politics part, we learned about systems of government and stuff, and I think it was election that year, so that actually ended up helping me be a reasonably informed 18-year-old voter, which is not a lot. I'm not sure if a lot of 18-year-olds are necessarily that informed in politics. Maybe that's just naive of me, but so that helped, and I enjoyed that a little bit, but. Yeah, I've just started law one this year as well, which not as well. Sorry, instead of I changed it over to that, and who knows? Maybe one day I'll be a lawyer, but I think it's just nice to start on something and keep your mind off football.
One thing I've learnt as a 31-year-old male is the fact that if I could go back, I mean I've got a son now, which is awesome, but I think if people do want to study and studying is their form of bettering themselves while they're working out what they want to do, and in the business that I'm in, the three things, only two come to mind right now, but there's three sort of courses I'd say that are really good and I wish I had done, but I'm not a studier, was like an accounting degree. Just to have such a great basic knowledge of accounting. That's anyone who wants to start a business, you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know this. And like, if you hate accounting, who gives a fuck? But as long as you know it and you just know what's going on and you can understand it, it's the one thing that like secretly I've probably been doing the most over the last 4 years is just learning how to like.
It's a great point even now. I feel like when you start earning money and just understanding, I think, even if you then, I guess, want to like buy a house, this sort of stuff, just understanding different terminology, understanding how to read numbers. And you're right, running a business would be a different thing completely.
Yeah.
But just understanding what you're looking at when you're reading different numbers and terminology, that sort of stuff. You're right, accounting would be a really good one, a really good one.
So I reckon that's an awesome course. And another one, obviously law. Anyone that I know has got a law degree, it's just so cool to know like law, like the law, like you're like, you know, like even just getting out of a fucking parking ticket or something, or someone sends you something and you're like, that's not the law. Like I can easily challenge that.
It's a good call. I mean, again, mine sort of more stems from like history and other cultures and stuff. So like the international relations really interests me, and I don't know, it's again thinking too far down the track for me to have any serious idea, but something like international law, I'm always interested in what's going on around the world and different stuff like that. So that really interests me. But it's also handy if I can get out some parking tickets, because I picked up a few of those and it's really annoying. They're red hot in the eastern suburbs.
I can imagine. Here you are, you're thinking about how you can affect the world. I'm just thinking about parking tickets. It's painting me in a great light. I apologise.
No, definitely.
Goals post, like I know there's so long to go, the projection piece, which, as we're talking about before, law degree, projection piece. Say you've finished your career, you're in the top 3 Giants players of all time, you've got a premiership, a Brownlow. Would you project staying in football, or would you think you'd like to sort of broaden your horizons to another field?
Right now, if I answered that, and again, who knows how I feel in hopefully a long period, but right now when I answer that, I actually can answer with confidence that I don't want to be in football. I think as much as I love football, I'm more than a footballer as well, which I think it's important for and helps. We talk about, you know, athletes transitioning out. I think it's really important to remember that you are more than a footballer. This is part of your life, and it's a really important part, and it's not something we should be ashamed of or shy away from, sort of thing. But there's more to all of us than that, and so I suppose right now, like I said, I am living my dream and I love it. But I also think there is some part of me I can contribute to our society or to something bigger than myself, because I feel like to some extent right now football, as I said, I love it, but it is, when I say a selfish pursuit. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I know exactly what you're saying.
So I just think that there's more to me, and I think I can give more to the world than just football. And that's not to say though, if you're interested and you think, I suppose you're put on this planet to give to football your whole life, I love and respect that. I'm glad you do it. And if that's your calling, that's great. I just don't think that that's my calling long term. But I also might be wrong. Who knows? Maybe I'll get to 35 or something and I'd love to go into the media and be a commentator, or maybe my passion is coaching, you know, young kids, because I understand the effect that a football can have on lives and bringing, you know, people, underprivileged kids out of certain things. And I understand that, you know, there's more and there's a bigger contribution that football can make. But I just think that I think mine will be somewhere else that isn't football.
You know what's really interesting about that? I'm just I'm thinking, I've done a lot of reflection lately on that as well, and it's funny when you want to have impact on people. You know, I always think like, am I having impact? And I think that it's a really interesting question, because I look at, there's 2 parts, right? I look at you guys and I think, as you're saying, then you think, oh, maybe I'm not having as much impact as I could potentially have. And I think there's something about sport where now I'm on the other side of it, right? And I say I come down the rooms and I watch you guys, you're in the rooms, and I sort of sit back and you watch these people that are in the rooms, or the people that are walking to the game with their families. They're like, you know, watching it on TV, and the impact that has without you even knowing you're doing something is fucked. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But then you think as well, like, I'm holistically, like, the one thing you can't control really what impact you have on other people.
Yeah.
But the only people you can control impact on, I'm talking to myself here, is now that like I have a family, I'm like, I can't think about everyone else. I've just got to think about I can have an impact on my wife and I can have an impact on my son. And as long as I'm doing that, I'm okay.
Yeah, and it's a great point. It is, I think, the biggest point that maybe you can probably have when I say a realisation in your life, again, coming from a 23-year-old who doesn't know much about life, but is that you can't think too much about other people or like I remember sort of even as I've just grown up thinking a bit about legacy, that sort of stuff. You're like, oh, how do you want to be remembered or whatever? Well, realistically, in 100 years, we're probably not going to be remembered. In 200, we're definitely not. And in 1,000, we're certainly not. So
unless you do something really bad.
Yeah, unless
so that's the point though, right? Just don't do something really bad, and
as we can try to. But the only impact you can really know that, as you said, is try and have a positive impact on the people that you love and care about. Because there's other people who, no matter what you do, will take it the wrong way. You can't control how they feel, but you can only control the people that you love and care about if you feel like, or if they feel like their life is better for the way you are in their life. I think that's all that matters.
And it is, man. And by the way, I'm saying that like I'm not saying that in terms of preaching it. Like I'm saying it like I'm trying to get better at that. Because, it's fucking hard.
Yeah, no, 100% it's hard. Again, easier said than done. A lot of this stuff is easier said than done.
This is a lot of it like we're not doing any of the things we're talking about today, but you guys should try.
I'm saying the right things, not actually doing
any of them. No, mate, fucking hell. It's hey, back to that space analogy, man.
Yeah.
The more you know.
My brother, it's funny, one of my brothers, Josh, who I don't know if you ever met, he's not much younger than me, but he might have played NEFL a bit too late to have crossed paths with you, but he's big into astrophysics actually. Wow. And he's really smart. He's really, really smart.
Smart family, man. Yeah, sort of intelligent, sort of like, is that, no, but like, are your family quite academic?
Yeah, generally, yeah.
Yep.
But he is really interested in astrophysics. So was my dad a little bit, but I think my brother.
Sorry, no one's a little bit interested in astrophysics.
No, well, like, as in dad's. I think Josh. I need to confirm this, but I think he's doing an engineering degree, but he might be majoring or doing some other thing in astrophysics. Like he actually.
And I know what that is, but just for everyone else out there, what would he be learning about?
Well, he's. Again, I'm probably not the best person to ask because it doesn't interest me that much, but he's learning about space and time and how they affect different things. He did physics at school, which again he loved and he's really good at. And so, for instance, Oppenheimer, I loved Oppenheimer and I don't know that much about it, but he also loved learning about that and just, I suppose, some of the different principles and rules and that he knew and probably has a better understanding of the movie than I do, but he is studying that as well. And as you said, the more he learns and I hear about and we sort of talk about, the more you realise like there's things that even in physics, there's a lot of rules that they say are rules, but then when you learn more about it, you go, they don't actually know things for certain. Like there's things about electrons. You can never know actually where an electron is around an atom, that sort of stuff.
Have you listened to the podcast lately with that Joe Rogan episode with the Terrence guy?
No,
it's going viral at the moment.
I haven't.
So this guy, he like doesn't believe in like a lot of these things and he's challenging them. And the funniest fucking episode ever, like the first like 5 seconds, I saw a TikTok the other day and the caption was like, it's going to be a good episode when this is in the first 20 seconds. And the guy goes, like, what's your earliest memory of your life? To like Joe Rogan. He goes, oh, fuck. I don't know. And then this guy goes, I remember when I was thinking something and I felt this crash and a bump and I was moved around. He goes, and then I woke up and I was in my mum's stomach.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this bloke? It was unbelievable. Like, it's, again, I'm not saying, a lot of people get so upset with these, Joe Rogan and stuff like that. It's like, mate, you can listen to something and not think it's verbatim. Just listen and sort of like see what your mark is. Yeah. Question on that though, I know I'm taking a lot of your time, but what's something you wish you knew more about? Because you've said this to like something then about the physics and stuff, and there's something that I wish I could learn about. I might have to get your brother to teach me if it's something that's in that.
Yeah, it might be a little bit of that. So like things like history and like this, like I was sort of talking about international relations, that sort of stuff, I do a fair bit of looking into and researching because again, it interests me. I listen to podcasts on it. I learn a lot about it. But it might be that just because I think it's very, like again, it depends how deep you want to go with this sort of stuff, but it's very funny how I feel like a lot of these astrophysicists, they sort of, you feel like a lot of really scientific people end up not believing, I suppose, in, or not being very religious or spiritual, but then some of the people who end up doing this astrophysics stuff end up being spiritual a bit in the way because they sort of understand how improbable a lot of things that happen to, for instance, create life or an understanding of how large the universe is, this sort of stuff, and it makes you realize, well, geez, maybe something has had a hand in this, or anyway, just
that's really. I love what you're saying there.
Yeah,
like, I don't believe there's a like a man in the sky that makes decisions, but I do believe like the universe is on our side, and like there's something there that if you know, on a very simple way of explaining, like if you want to do something, we are all like atoms made up. Like, and I can't even explain this because someone will be laughing listening. But if you push, there's resistance. You come back, and there's not like you just got to like be like a plastic bag in the wind and just sort of fucking go with it.
What you're saying, literally though, about like the atoms and stuff is true in terms of, all matter. This is again one of the physics things. All matter. Like can't be created or destroyed, or energy or transferred. So
we're energy.
Yeah, we are, and the like our atoms have come from the Big Bang and stars exploding, that sort of stuff. So we literally are a part of the universe in terms of we are made up of that same matter. So
God, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. Again, it depends how deep you want to go with it all. And again, I've also got to disclaimer before this gets clipped, like Jacob does, and I am no expert.
Yeah, we'll take that out.
I am no expert on anything.
Hey guys, if you're listening to this, we are both law students and we are astrophysicists and we know everything.
We're geniuses, basically. Yeah. So
my one that is definitely not astrophysicist-y, but is something is I love, and I've had someone explain this to me once, but I'm not even going to try and articulate it, but the way the moon and the tides of the ocean work is one of the coolest things.
Yeah, it is really cool.
It is fucking cool. And like, I don't even want to try and talk about it, but I'd say I might try and get a video to sort of that I found about
Is the one you're talking about whether I think they have maybe it's this, I don't know if it's the sun's gravitational pull and the moon's.
Yeah, the pull, and that's where the tides, that's how.
Also, like the water is stationary and the earth moves through that, if that makes sense. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, I don't even want to agree or disagree to that, but I think...
Because I think I've seen a graph of that where it's not actually
crazy.
The tides that sort of, when I say move, the water is pulled
in and out.
In like that sort of way, and then the earth moves on its rotation through that.
So... yeah, basically like the moon pulling the water. And but it's almost
cool. It's very cool.
It's almost in a way of like really when you think about it, and this isn't science. It's just an idiot having an opinion. It's like with the moon pulling the water, that's how then it sort of. Imagine if water was like a lake, right? And it didn't sort of wash itself around. It just have shit everywhere, but it just like washes, the waves calm. It sort of like cleans.
Yeah, it is.
The ocean.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if we leave this in or not because I'm scared someone's going to clip this up and be like, "What are these fucking idiots talking about?"
Who knows? We'll wait. We'll wait and see.
What comes. Paul Roos might really have a field day with this.
Yeah, we've gone to this, and again, the clip will just come back to bagging Paul Roos again,
mate. To finish up, listening, all-time sort of series or films or podcasts, music. What do you like to sort of dip your eardrums into?
Yeah, so at the minute, I was talking about those history podcasts. One of my favourite is The Rest Is History.
Yep.
Those guys, I love them. They're really insightful. And again, like they're very good at just giving a pretty good, because again, like a lot of this historical stuff, you can go so deep on, and they only generally keep their
like a 101 type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it sort of gives you a pretty good understanding of how everything went. If you want to then, it's really tip you off and do more research, then that's great. But I really like that because they do a whole lot of different historical things and stuff that I'm really interested in. So I really enjoy that. Musically, at the minute, I don't know. It's a little bit dependent on how I'm feeling. I listen to rap. So that's sort of been me.
Can you rap your favourite song for us?
Probably not.
Yeah, I was honestly hoping you didn't.
Yeah. No, I'm probably not going to do that. But I don't know. What am I feeling at the minute? I kind of want to check my phone and see what I've been vibing at the minute.
Yeah,
I know Gunna released an album recently.
So you're into the sort of the
more full on hip hop.
Yeah, the more full on to the beefy type. Like are they the ones that beef?
No, are you talking about the Drake and Kendrick stuff?
Yeah. But Gunna's sort of a part of that.
Yeah, he had some stuff going on and around there. Yeah, I suppose like the stuff that I've been listening to recently is mainly, most notably Gunna's recent album. But actually, there's a guy who I shout out in our last podcast who I really like is this album by Boldy James and The Alchemist.
Okay.
It's called Super Tecmo Bow, and it's a really cool, because The Alchemist, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, is a producer. He just has really cool samples and the way that he flips samples and stuff. I really like that type of rap.
Do you know what my favourite thing is about rap?
What's that?
When the DJ or the producer has their sting at the start of the song.
Yeah,
so you know, like you listen to
tag.
like Tiger or something, it's like wasn't on a beat,
Yeah.
or like DJ Khaled goes another one.
Yeah.
That's like my favourite thing about rap is like a really good
Producer tag, yeah.
producer tag in the song.
Yeah.
Skepta's one's really good too. His is it's hard to think about it off the top of my head, but
I like his ad libs though, where he's like, Grease.
Yeah.
He has those, and he's cool. Skepta, I know you're actually, I have noticed that you are a big Skepta fan. I'm a big Skepta fan too.
UK, there's not, I think UK productions in terms of music and films and series is like my favourite side of anything. So like, in terms of Loyal Kana, Mac Mill's obviously American, but Frankie Stew and Harvey Gunn, Skepta, Stormzy, Jamie, all those like that
like
type
Dave?
of Dave. Dave's a bit. I like him.
I know what you mean. He's a bit different in production, or like musically to the other guys. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Probably, I like the. It sounds cringe when you say it like this, but I actually like the rap that's sort of on a slow beat. That's almost like poetry versus like a rap. They're sort of like singing.
Yeah, I know.
More of like a rap.
Yeah.
But these guys, Frankie Stew and Harvey Gunn, I've been listening to them for so long, and I just found them on Spotify, and I'm that freak that's like 0.01% of their listeners, and I like message them, and they just don't give a fuck. Yeah, like it's so good.
But you just love them.
But I'm like, man, like I always.
I'm your biggest fan. You don't understand.
Yeah, I'm like, I messaged them because I was meant to go to Europe this year, and I messaged the account knowing they're not playing anywhere. But I was like, hey guys, you got any shows on? They're like, nah. I'm like, all right, next time we'll check it out. Next time. Well, I don't know what I'm expecting, like a private show or something. But
hey,
like,
by the way, we're just going to be like, come through. We'll play for you. Like, we'll play some unreleased music. We'll get the studio together.
It's so embarrassing. Movies and films?
Yeah, it's a good one. I don't watch as many movies as I would like to, but Oppenheimer last year I absolutely loved. I love that movie. I like The Gentleman, actually, if you want to talk about some UK stuff. I like The Gentleman recently with Matthew McConaughey. That was great.
Did you watch a series? The movies are so much better. The movie's a lot better.
Yeah, okay. Well, I really like the movie. My favourite, I love the Godfather movies as well. I talk with Cogs about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And actually, though, some of the ones I've watched recently, I watched a fair few of Tarantino's movies. I love Django. I absolutely love Django Unchained, and I love Inglourious Basterds as well.
You know what's crazy about those movies is like they make you feel something. Like like some of those scenes, not just the blatant racism in there, obviously, but it's just fucked. You're like, holy fuck, how was the world like this?
Yeah, no, it is insane. Seeing some of the big, like even when they go and visit like some of the plantations and they end up killing those three brothers, like, but just realizing like
you have to skip a few, which is just like
it is so full on. Which I suppose though, which Tarantino obviously gets a lot of like a fair bit of flack for, but part of the way that like, you know, the language they use is so graphic and so full on, but so probably like accurate to the time that it's like, that's why it's so great.
Emotive,
people, like, and you do feel something from it.
That's 100%. Like I think, you know, being two white males talking on a podcast, which is the biggest cliche thing ever. I think it
100%.
It's a time where you look and you go, fuck, like without, obviously there's documentaries and history podcasts, but I think it is a good way to articulate how fucked up the world was.
Yeah.
Just some of those scenes are, what about the scene when they're wrestling in the house?
Yeah, no, that's insane. That's just really uncomfortable. It's ridiculously uncomfortable.
It probably wasn't needed.
No, it's like, yeah, I know exactly. Yeah.
Anyway,
I do love the movie though.
Yeah, the movie's put together well. The guy in that with obviously Jamie Foxx, who's unbelievable in it, and
Christoph Waltz.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why I love him
that
as well.
Role.
Inglourious Basterds, he's unbelievable.
How much do you hate him though in Inglourious Basterds?
Oh yeah, you absolutely hate him. But then, yeah, you love him in Django.
Yeah. Mate, I appreciate your time, brother. You've been an absolute star. We could have kept going into some things. I'm also keen to like not talk about stuff we don't know anything more about.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I feel like before I go on, particularly on the record, like this is going on the record, I'd love to just touch up on a few things and just confirm I'm not yapping.
I think we'll have to get some people to listen over just to ensure that there's...
Can we just confirm that's actually everything was said?
But in saying that, I think it's right.
Just a gut feel thing.
Gut feel, like, with that physicist stuff, like, it is what it is, you know? There's not that much science to it.
I'm not a physicist, so like, don't hold me to account that much on it, but...
Just spreading misinformation. Yeah. Love it. Mate, best of luck for the year ahead. So rapt for you to see what you're doing, both on and off the field. And, absolute pleasure to have you on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dylan.
And, guys, make sure you go check in on the green room with Jake and Tom too. Yes. Give them a bit of feedback of where you think it is in terms of what AFL club at the moment.
Please do. We're happy to receive any feedback on that. And, Dyl, thank you very much for having me. It's been a blast, and I really appreciate you spending the time and having me on.
You're a star, brother. Thank you.
Thank you very much.